Okay, first I wanted to say a little something about the video that I put up yesterday because it actually is a re-upload of an older video that I did almost 2 years ago now. Wow, I can't believe it's already been that long. One of the first Flat Earth videos I did back in the fall of 2015. And then I kind of just threw together some stuff at the beginning, kind of connecting the obelisk and the phallus symbol and all that idea. It's just kind of, just to kind of try and find a creative way to kind of put that information back up. But I did want to apologize and mention just the audio quality. The reason that the audio quality is so bad was that, in the beginning I was still just kind of learning by trial and error on the audio recording side, the video editing side. I'd never done any of this before, and I'm still learning, obviously, but it's been something I've been thinking about for a while, actually, the idea of going back and just revisiting some of those early videos that I made, when Flat Earth was still fresh and new, and I was kind of still going through all these things that I'd been looking into in the months and years, leading up to the Flat Earth realization, and kind of going through and looking at everything through this kind of new perspective. And so the Masonic G and the generative principle again was an interesting thing that I saw a correlation between the idea of a pantheistic God, which I do think is really represented by just cosmic evolution. Cosmic evolution is essentially pantheistic at its core because the universe is creating itself, right? It's very much in line with Kabbalah and all these other pantheistic mysticism ideas. But then kind of connected to that, of course, when you're dealing with the phallus symbolism and the male principle, it's coupled with the female, right? So much of the occult symbolism and belief systems at the end of the day just boils down to, plain old sex symbolism and sex magic. And this really shouldn't be surprising if you understand that this is kind of what's been at the core of so much of it all along to this day, with sex rituals and sex magic and, Aleister Crowley. And if you look into this long enough, you understand that that's at the core of so much of what they do. And, really believing that it's part of this pathway to their enlightenment, when in reality it's just a pathway into deeper and deeper depravity. That's why it's satanic. That's why it's a Luciferian deception, because you go through this whole labyrinth of teachings and secret knowledge and all that, and at the end of the day, all it's doing is trying to just turn everything upside down. And that's what we see in our society right now. So it's it's nothing new to most of you, but to some people it is. And that's kind of why I wanted to go back through some of this stuff, because I know a lot of, especially the ones I did in the first 6 months to a year, most people haven't gone back that far and watched every single video. Some people, surprisingly, a surprising number of you actually have gone back and watched a lot of the older videos, but I know there's just no time to watch everything. So I just wanted to go back and revisit some of those things I was looking at, and just for my own sake as well, to kind of go back and look at them anew and contemplate this. But anyways, so of course, a lot of people understand that the obelisk is a phallic symbol. It is sort of the male principle, whereas the dome symbolizes the womb and the female principle, so to speak. But again, understand that they're just, Satan's just using these things as symbolism to deceive people. In reality, he's just trying to destroy male and female, as pervert God's creation. But the dome symbolism, especially in architecture and things like the Pantheon, was something I started to think about a lot, especially, right away. Especially because I'd been looking at some videos that had come out just a few months, I think, before I really started looking at Flat Earth, and where the guy was talking about this Dior commercial, actually, and it's pretty bizarre, all the things they put in there, where she's in this, she's in this grand hallway. It's like a ballroom. And this fabric is unfurled from the ceiling of the dome, and then she climbs up it, ripping off her pearls, supposedly. Is like, I don't know if that's like a rejection of materialism or something, but she comes out at the top, and then it's like, it's a whole new world, and it's gold, and it's like, you're looking at the future, you're looking at sort of, this is like Luciferian eschatology. If we're to imagine that there's actually some real symbolism in here, then there's a lot about the fact that she comes out and it's this big futuristic looking city at the top. And of course, the interpretation that was being given at the time I was watching it is that this is all dimensional symbolism, right? That they're talking about breaking through the physical dimensions that we are constrained to right now, and getting up into higher dimensions and into heaven itself, and all this, which I thought was really interesting, because this commercial it's pretty weird. This is a Dior commercial, but what does this have to do with perfume? It's really hard to suggest what kind of meaning it could have other than esoteric meaning. And then you see this in a lot of commercials, and he's kind of going through different stuff and jumping around. But after I'm suddenly thinking about this idea of the ancient Hebrew cosmology, and there actually being some sort of literal firmament and literal dome that is combined with all the dimensional aspects of creation. So it's not swapping one out for the other. It's now you have sort of both. You have higher spiritual dimensions, but you also have a literal physical enclosure that is, from my speculations, as far as I know, the firmament could actually exist even in higher dimensions, and who knows what shape and size it actually is. But it seems like a pretty safe conclusion that no one gets in or out into the highest heaven, aside from without God allowing it. And so this ties into lots of possible agendas going on with things like CERN, and all the quantum physics sorcery going on, and all this. But this really just got me thinking, once I started thinking about, why are these domes so prevalent in both the ancient architecture, like the Pantheon, which is, whenever you watch a documentary on it or anything, they always make a big deal about it being, the first domed ceiling that, why do they go to such effort just to see if they could make a domed ceiling, with this hole in the top, this oculus, that's what's really interesting, is that there's always something significant at the apex of the dome, whether it's a hole or whether it's, a lot of times it's a star or a sun, or in certain churches it's actually Jesus painted on there, or and you just start thinking about all the Capitol buildings, all the usual places, DC and London and the Vatican and the Dome of the Rock in Jerusalem, which interestingly enough was originally built as a Byzantine church, actually, before it was eventually conquered and converted into a mosque. It wasn't originally a mosque, it was a church. All 50 states in the United States have their own Capitol building with a dome. And that's what's interesting to me, is because those are such new constructions, and I guess I would argue that all of them have been built in the era of the Freemasonic control of America. And so every time they'd go and build one of these Greco-Roman looking buildings, there has to be a reason why they insist on continually building these same type of structures. And then in other cultures you have things like the onion domes, and then you get into Eastern Asia, where you have in Buddhism you have the stupas, and maybe there's a similarity. Maybe there's a similar connection somehow with those, being sort of a microcosm depiction of the macro of the cosmos. So it's like a miniature model of the world. So yeah, it's interesting because she escapes out through the top. I mean, so if this is indeed sort of a esoteric depiction of what the elites think they're working towards, what they think they're going to accomplish, yeah, it definitely ties into a lot of stuff that now that more and more people are getting into the flat earth and enclosed cosmology, but then opting to explore the esoteric and the all the new age material more themselves and take it seriously. They start getting into the world tree idea and the toroid and the torus, and all the stuff with the North Pole. I'm sure many of you are familiar with channels like Devin Maggi. I think he changed his channel name to something else now, but this whole blood over intent gospel, this whole idea of that the North Pole is some kind of dimensional portal or literal portal. I mean, it's sometimes it's kind of hard to nail down how much of what they're talking about they believe in a literal sense and how much of it is metaphorical. And I think that's kind of the whole point, is that it's it's intentionally ambiguous. But yeah, there's scores and scores of people getting sucked into this blood over intent idea, where they are literally making a blood pact, signing a piece of paper and reciting these words, which, if you really understand what they're saying, they're spouting a Luciferian doctrine, and it which I think on the surface sounds great, like to love all and exclude none, and there's this idea that you're freeing yourself from whatever contractual things you've been put under by the powers that be. So you want to break free. It's sort of like it's like a new age version of the free man movement, the emancipation from all the control systems. But it's totally occult, and it's the same occult idea. So you can take all these things and put them into an enclosed cosmology and still end up regurgitating the same occult belief systems and the same occult eschatologies. I mean, that's what they have, is an eschatology, because they believe they're going to escape through this portal, through this tree, through Yggdrasil, which again, if this was stuff that the elites were really truly trying to hide from the masses and didn't want you to learn about the world tree and didn't want you to learn about the North Pole and stuff, they probably wouldn't be putting it in blockbuster movies like, the Avengers and Captain America and stuff. I mean, where it's depicted as a portal, as a dimensional conduit, whatever. I mean, it's in all the Thor movies. What do you think the Rainbow Bridge is? Like, why are they putting that in movies if it's just this big secret that they don't want people to know about? So it's a demonic deception. That's what all of this is. This is all a lie. And that's the thing that you have to understand, is that, okay, when you start digging into, whether it's like ancient megalithic structures and architecture, or ancient belief systems, even if there's little kernels of truth, if they don't know the true God, and if they weren't getting their information from the being who created everything, but rather from all these other fallen beings, these false gods, then it's always truth mixed with lies. It's always little bits of distorted truths mixed with the Luciferian lie of becoming a god yourself, of saving yourself, of, that's what we see here. So, yeah, I know I keep hitting upon that point again and again, but it really comes down to, I think, a simple matter of logic, or broken logic in the case of the people that really want to convince themselves that these esoteric truths, this occult knowledge is something that the elites, they don't want us to have. They're trying to hoard it for themselves, and they're trying to just keep us enslaved with these biblical ideas and the Christian God, and really trying to keep us away from realizing our own divinity and our own power, and because we'll rise up against them and all this. This is what people just really, really want to believe so much of the time. But it's just, you can't look at the culture, you can't look at the entertainment industry and really defend this idea with for any amount of time. It falls apart the second you actually take this idea and hold it up against the evidence. And this is why, again, if you start to understand things like Theosophy and Blavatsky's secret doctrine, I mean, she wrote about this over 100 years ago, where this was the plan, was to eradicate Christianity, to destroy and discredit the Christian, the Bible and the Christian message, and to promote the ancient mystery school religion, to promote witchcraft, to promote the New Age. And this is the stated plan of the people that created the United Nations and created the banking system and created the, everything that we all supposedly hate in the truth movement. If you think you know anything about the powers that be and the New World Order and all the stuff they're doing to the environment and to our health and to all these things, you can't ignore, it's great to learn about all that stuff, about, chemtrails and GMOs and the technocracy and, the one world economic system, all the stuff they've been building for generations. The spiritual agenda is the most crucial component of that. So be honest with yourself when you look at what message the, New World Order, Illuminati-controlled media is really pushing. This commercial is just one tiny example amongst thousands and thousands. I think that's pretty much what I wanted to say about that. Thanks a lot.